I'm the Dean of Environmental Studies here at the Nelson Institute for Environmental Studies at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. This is Zoe the Great Dane. She is the Associate Dean of being a Great Dane. This event is a leveling up event. Learn the what, why, and how to join a professional master's program at the Nelson Institute. We are enormously proud of our professional programs. Our graduates are out changing the world. And so if you have questions about the program, this is a chance for you to learn about it. It's part of a larger set of offerings and events called Leveling Up, which is a whole series of professional development opportunities for students and people interested in environmental studies. For today's conversation, we're just going to focus on these professional master's programs. And what are these degrees and what are they about? So just to give you a feeling, a typical or traditional master's program is built around a thesis. That is original research written by you in a big old paper form, right? It's an actual research experience that then delivers a thesis upon which your success is evaluated, right? That's sort of what you think of when you think of a master's program. Professional masters, like ours, don't have a thesis, but instead are experiential in nature, so that it is being placed in a problem-solving situation with an organization or partner agency, and that is the success upon which your performance is evaluated. So it's very different. It has a very different vibe to it. You learn different skills. They're both really, really valuable credentials. They're good things to study, but they're different, and they're for different kinds of people at different parts of their life. So if you're interested in a research-based degree, you'll want to explore our Environment and Resources Master's or PhD program. And today we are joined by Jim Miller, who's Nelson Institute Graduate Advisor. There he is, who can answer questions about that program. We're joined also by Meghan Kautzer, the Environmental Conservation Program Coordinator. She's a program coordinator for one of these professional masters. And Sarah Graves, Environmental Observation and Informatics Program Coordinator, to tell us about professional master's degrees at the Nelson Institute. So here's the deal. I'm going to throw out a bunch of questions. They're going to answer them. It's going to all be super interesting. And if you want to lay in a question, you just dump it in the chat and I will translate it out and back later on in this session. And I'm really pleased to have these folks with us. So this is my first question for everybody. Could one of you share what the advantages of a professional master's of science degree is? Like, what are the advantages of that kind of professional credential?
I can answer that. Well, I think there's a lot. And what you might find out through this conversation is that, like, students find that they might fit in certain places better than others. Some really want to go into research, some do not, and want to go out into the world and see how they can apply these skills in real life with real clients. So I think, to me, some of the advantages, particularly in our programs, are the cohort model. And while there are some differences, there are key differences between all three programs. The cohort model is something that's unique to professional programs. So it creates a sense of community within your team. Cohort meaning you go through this program with a set group of people. So you're consistently learning from each other and building off each other's knowledge and challenging each other by bringing your own experience and background to the table. That goes in also with the Nelson community, which is something you'll find in any graduate degree program, but particularly in professional programs. They have a really strong sense of community with one another and throughout the Nelson community. I'm just looking at some of my notes here. Let's see. So for the Environmental Conservation Program and the Environmental Observation and Informatics Program in particular, it's a really key space where you can find out where you fit in. So I know I have these strengths. I know I have this experience and this background and this passion and interest, but I don't quite know where it fits. That's a place where you don't have to come in with the perfect, clear vision of this is my research question, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. It's a space where you can figure out where do my skills and strengths best apply for me to make the most positive change happen on behalf of the earth. So that's a particular advantage for the professional programs. And lastly, I guess I would say it's a unique learning environment with some really just strong targeted support for what you're moving towards. So rather than going through something individually or independently or feeling alone, it is very much a community amongst your peers, but certainly us as advisors and coordinators.
Thank you, Megan. Sarah, do you want to add anything before I go to a round robin?
Yeah, I think you touched on it a little bit at your intro comments, Paul, but I think really being aware that these programs are geared towards professional development, unlike the research programs, which have a focus on this primary research. And again, it's not to say that one is better for someone than others, but these programs are designed to give you skills in advancing your career or being a successful professional. And some of it is explicit through different courses or workshops that are integrated into these programs, but a lot of it is because you'll be working with an organization or with your cohort on a project. So you have to learn things like communication and project management. And that's what you get through these programs because it's pretty explicit. But these programs also, they don't just teach you professional skills. We are a great interdisciplinary institute. So everyone going through these programs does get a strong discipline knowledge, whether you want to focus on water resources or remote sensing or some environmental conservation issues. So you get the professional development and sort of expertise in a environmental discipline of your choice.
Great. All right. Jim?
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, doing research in a thesis takes time. So an advantage of doing a professional MS like EC, EOI, or WRM, you're not immersed in taking research methods classes, whether they be qualitative or mixed methods or whatnot. But, with this, you don't have to go through an institutional review board with regard to human subjects permissions. Instead of devoting time to research and writing your thesis, you can be taking courses and adding to your skill set and your knowledge base to help work your way up the ladder at whatever organization you'd like to.
Very helpful. All right, so I'm going to ask everybody to kind of quickly summarize what their program is and just kind of so we can tell them all apart because they're different flavors of ice cream for sure. We've got an environment and resources program, which is a master's or a PhD, which is, as we said, is thesis focused and research focused. We have a program called environmental conservation, which we'll discuss, which focuses on what you would think is conservation problem solving. And we have a program called environmental observation and informatics, which focuses on remote sensing, gathering of big data to solve environmental questions and problems. So we're going to go around and everybody can take just a few minutes to talk about what their program is really all about. What does it feel like? What skills do you learn? What does it deliver to the student? And let's start with Megan again.
Sure. So I wanted to distinguish just a little bit between both the environmental conservation degree that I coordinate and the environmental observation and informatics degree that Sarah coordinates. Those two fall under an umbrella that is separate from the water resources management program. And the key differences are what I refer to as EC, and Sarah and Jim might say EOI as well. Those two are both on the same accelerated timeline. So they're 15-month programs, interdisciplinary, quick-moving course programs that you come in and take 3 semesters of coursework, and you have 1 semester of an applied project that is individual. So it's an individual project for each particular student. And those projects are a match between the organization's ongoing work and mission and the student interest, experience, and goals. So those are some key differences between the EC and AOI programs, where that's an overlap, and WRM, the Water Resources Management program, will look a little different. So just to give a little pre-up for that. So EC, the Environmental Conservation Professional Master's degree is really focused on the power of people. So we recognize that in order to reach better outcomes for the environment and those who are influenced by it, we need to work better with the people that are being affected by it, but also those who make decisions about it. So students in particular gain skills in communication, stakeholder engagement, conflict mitigation, but also the ecological and hard sciences to give you a solid foundation in science so that you can better communicate it with those on the ground. Students in particular are very drawn to and learn a ton in their conservation planning course, which is a very strategic set, an approach, a framework to making effective decisions about the environment. Additionally, students are introduced to things like land use policy and engaging with the legislature and agency-based conservation. So thinking about how do federal and state agencies influence conservation decisions. Additionally, students are introduced to various tools that we refer to. So things like conservation GIS, grant writing, and other fundraising approaches, as well as evaluation, something that's becoming more in demand as programs and projects are tied to funding that are evaluated as successful. So overall, that's the EC program in a nutshell, and we can go a lot deeper once we go into that lunch and learn about specific coursework and outcomes, as well as project examples.
Great. Okay, so that's environmental conservation. Second program is environmental observation and informatics, and Sarah could take a couple minutes to talk about that.
Yes. So environmental observation and informatics, it's a long name. It's got a lot to it. So we call it the EOI degree, as Megan said. This is the data program of the three. It's the most data intensive, and it actually grew out of a recognition that more and more environmental work needed data to help it along. And there's a ton of environmental data out there that we can use in really informed and effective ways. So this is the data program. I like to think of it in like 3 parts. So you have to know what data is out there and how to get it. You have to know how to analyze it. And then you have to make it useful and make it effective for informing decisions or guiding strategies or plans. So knowing what's out there and how you access it, this is a course like remote sensing, which is core to the program. So, we have satellites flying all over all the time. We have drones and planes. How do you get that data and incorporate it into your work? So that's part 1. Part 2 is how do you analyze that data in a rigorous and meaningful way? So we have courses in statistics and spatial statistics specifically, because all data is spatial. And we have courses in like applied conservation GIS. So those courses really focus on, well, what can I do with this data? How do I analyze it to answer a question or to understand a pattern? And then the third part, how do you actually make use of that data? Thinking about communication. So we have a class in policy and politics of environmental information. So how do you use public domain data effectively? It's also things like, what color scale do you use? How do you visualize this effectively? So that final part is really the most exciting, and students get to put it to work. So that's all I'll say for the EOI program. Just think really cool data to support understanding and addressing really complex environmental problems.
Right on. Okay, so that's 2 of the programs. We're going to go to Jim to talk about water resource management, and then we'll get some questions already coming in from prospective students.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Yeah, so water resources management, we oftentimes just refer to it as WRM, or some of the students and alums just affectionately refer to themselves as worms, that sort of thing. So what WRM is it's a 45-credit, 2-year master's degree program. And in place of research and a thesis, you do a summer group practicum workshop with the cohort that you matriculate with. And so what that is all about is let's say it might be a municipality, it could be an agency, it could be a friends group, something of the sort, but they're having a real world water issue. And your WRM cohort, you and your colleagues, your peers who you matriculate with, you folks come up with a watershed management plan for that client, okay? And so it'll manifest a lot of different ways, like past workshops. These have been going back for decades, but it is the core staple of the program. But recently there was one done on salt use, so salt sustainability on the UW-Madison campus come wintertime. One that's being wrapped up now is working with the Coon Creek watershed in the driftless region of the state, working with the villages of Lafarge and Soldiers Grove and Laval, who experience a lot of flooding in that region. So it really gives you team building group skills, which can really be appealing to potential employers going forward. I mentioned it's 45 credits, 2 years. As part of those 45 credits, that practicum workshop sequence is a 6-credit synthesis and integration experience. You have to take a 2-credit planning seminar in the spring and the 4-credit workshop during your first summer. you're still around the second year, so you can work on analyzing the information that you got from stakeholders or from water quality or soil quality, whatnot, and you write and you edit the report your second year. Okay, so that practicum workshop is done your first summer, all right? So the 6 credit synthesis and integration requirement is part of that 45 credits. Along with that is a 9 credit science requirement, and that could be biological or physical science coursework. It's up to you. There's also a 9 credit human dimensions category. That's coursework like law, policy, planning, sociology, history, ethics. You get the gestalt of that. There's a 6 credit tools category. So think of things like remote sensing, GIS, methods, statistics. You get the sense. And then there's a 15 credit area specialty where you're really tailoring that to what your forte is going to be, how you're going to market yourself to organizations, whether they're agencies, NGOs, or nonprofits. So 45 credits, doable in 2 years. Some people even tack on a second master's degree as a double degree. We can talk about that more specifically when WRM has its own lunch and learn on Monday the 26th. But think of 45 credits, 2-year program. You do a summer group practicum workshop in place of an internship or research and a thesis.
Okay, so 3 very different kinds of programs, different kinds of emphases. Great, successful students out of all 3 of them. We're really proud of our graduate cohorts and our alums. We've got a couple of questions coming in, so I think I'll turn to the floor at this point. So the first question Jim touched on, and the question is, how easily can these programs be combined with other master's programs at UW-Madison? And I'll try to give the short answer. WRM has a very long history of enormously successful integration with other master's programs. So people getting, and Jim could talk about what pairings have been really effective. It's very doable because it's sort of a more traditional 2-year master's program where you're taking a number of credits that can be, can't double dip that much, but that can be woven together. Whereas EOI and EC are designed precisely to be standalone, and they're effectively could not be paired with other master's programs on campus. So that's a big decision to go one way or the other. If you really want to do something that pairs one of these, then WRM is probably going to be the better choice. Jim, is there something you want to say about that?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, at any given time, anywhere from like 1/4 to 1/2 of the WRM students are pursuing a double degree endeavor with another program or school on campus. And the primary suspects with that, the primary pairings would be with urban and regional planning. We see a lot of double degree endeavors with that department and program, and also civil and environmental engineering. But other partners in the past have been geoscience, geography, soil science, biological systems engineering, life sciences communication, and some people even do a dual degree with the law school. So the nice thing is WRM has a pretty liberal overlapping or double counting policy with credits. The graduate school allows WRM students to double count up to 15 credits with another grad program on campus, which actually is a lot. That's a lot of credit overlap. So the idea of a double degree is to get breadth from our program and to get depth and focus from a more traditional department or discipline like soils or like engineering.
Right. Whereas EC and EOI are really designed to be standalone, intensive, short 15-month experiences. Is there anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, I'll add on. I think the unique opportunity with EC and EOI that would come up for students who have kind of multi-interests or different areas of interest. Something that I heard a student say years ago that I really like is this idea that we provide structure with built-in flexibility. So the structure is there in the timeline and the courses that you would enroll in, but a lot of times what we'll have students do, my students are, I could write a paragraph this long of the different backgrounds, training and work experience that our students are in and come from. So comes with a very diverse set of students, have an extremely diverse set of interests. So some are interested, in going, oh gosh, I could literally just go everywhere. I'd have to pull up the paragraph of where the directions they all go. But my point is, with the flexibility, you are able to go deeper in the in-class projects, the reports you're writing, the things that you're researching and studying, the conservation planning project that you might be paired with. That's a real client that our students are paired with. We have 5 different ones every single year, as well as the independent project. So while there is limitation in pairing this degree with another master's degree on campus, there is flexibility in expanding and going much deeper into the areas of your particular interest area, which is also the advantage of an interdisciplinary institute in the first place, is you have access and support from the people who are experts and also love and are passionate about all of these different spaces in conservation. So that is something that's similar with the EOI degree in the program that Sarah coordinates. The ability to go much deeper in that independent project is a unique opportunity for you to expand in the areas that you are keenly interested in and gaining experience in.
Great. Sarah, do you want to add anything to that? I'll go to another question.
Just briefly, that for EOI specifically, but this does apply to the other programs too, the skills that you're learning are transferable. So to support what Meghan said, and like everyone comes in with different interests and different places they want to go, these skills apply. So, it can be overwhelming to think, which degree do I pick, or it can apply to a lot of stuff. You don't have to pick one thing and stick to it in grad school, or stick with it for the rest of your career.
Great. All right. So that's very helpful. So the next question that's come in from our viewers is, to what degree are people who come out of these programs competitive for PhDs? And to what degree is this really about professional workforce development? And yeah, that's sort of the question. What happens with it? Can you turn this degree into a PhD? And maybe we'll start with Jim at WRM.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Paul. What I'll say about WRM is it really is designed to train practitioners and not researchers. It's not, I could probably count on one hand the number of WRM alums who have gone on to a PhD through the years. So it's typically what it is. If people are pursuing the water resources management degree, they're looking at it as a terminal degree where they're then going to go work for a municipality, agency, nonprofit, NGO. It's not that someone couldn't get admitted to a PhD program after doing WRM. It's just that WRM isn't designed to be a stepping stone to a PhD program. So I think what's kind of important for people to try to figure out before going to grad school is, what do they want to do for the next 30 years of their life? And are they going to need a PhD in order to be able to do that? And if so, maybe it behooves them to look at a research and thesis master's degree. But like what Sarah was talking about, Megan's talked about this, a lot of the skills that you will pick up in graduate school are transferable. So it's not like you have to do research and a thesis master's degree in order to garner serious consideration from a doctoral admissions committee. It's just that these programs really are designed to train practitioners and not researchers. So that's, I think it just kind of depends upon what sort of faculty connections you make as part of your master's program, what kind of courses you take. There's a lot that goes into it that tough to answer in just a couple of minutes, but I'm gonna kick this to Meghan and Sarah for their thoughts as well.
Yeah.
Sarah, would you like to go?
Yeah, I'd say, for EC and EOI, going into a PhD is definitely possible, and students do it. Meghan, I think just last year from our last cohorts, we had 3 students go into PhD programs at Wisconsin. So a couple went into the ENR program, the Environment and Resources program, and one went into the forestry program. And I think the reason why they did that, one, is because I do think the students developed relationships with their faculty. So EC and EOI students do get a chance to be advised by a faculty member on that final project. So they did develop strong relationships through that. But I also think, conservation doesn't happen in an academic bubble. It happens with practitioners and with organizations doing the work. And so that experience of working with an organization on a research question, potentially for this project, and then developing that through a PhD, that's super valid and strong. And that's the direction some people decide to go. So I think it is just some people recognizing, like, wow, they have a really strong passion in a topic, have a good relationship, they found their fit, and they want to continue it. And in conservation, I think that can be having a PhD, a research degree that practitioner experience is beneficial for some people. But certainly most people don't go into a PhD.
And that's okay. A PhD isn't for everybody.
Yeah, I was Mary, to address the question of, are they entirely geared for the workforce? I would say the overall intent was yes. The professional workforce, applied professional conservation practitioner, as Jim referred to it. So just to give a few quick examples, I just pulled up our employment. So a lot of our students are in things from the EC program are in program management, education and outreach, community engagement, communications, conservation planning, fundraising, restoration, consulting. And in the UI program, since I have it here, Sarah, I'll show you, it's a geospatial analysis, data or software development, research, science, communications, and business development. So it does look like we have that 7% of our students went on to academia, after which I think is indicative of a PhD. So the skills, the focus, and kind of the connections that you make in the professional programs are geared with the express intent of thinking about how can we make help support these students and future professionals be more effective at their work when they go out. So we realized that if research and scientific research papers could solve all environmental problems, we would not exist still, because it'd be perfect, right? We need people who can take the science that is done and put it into action, communicate it to people, make it meaningful for people so that they can make better decisions about the land that they're working with. So that's the express intent of these programs, is how do we help people to actually develop the skills to make connections and build bridges with other people so that we can make science come to life and reach better outcomes. So you would be competitive for PhD programs depending on your background as well. That's extremely important. You know, if I have a student who's got zero experience and is 22 but had a very research-driven undergrad degree, might be different than a student who's, you know, in their 40s who's looking to apply their skills in this space. They're going to be a difference in being competitive. So the skills are transferable, but there is the intent to help you be prepared for applied work and not research.
All right, we only have a couple minutes left. I'm going to throw one more question out, but I will editorialize a little bit. Do you know that 60% of our PhDs at the Nelson Institute who hold PhDs don't go on to become faculty? They go on to be in problem-solving, decision-making. So there is a kind of bias in the Institute, and I've worked at a lot of places over the years, towards solving the world's problems. And it's a point of pride for all of our programs. And these three are excellent examples. All right, so we've just got a couple of minutes. So really briefly, what would you recommend prospective students do right now if they're applying this year? What should they be doing? Really quickly. Sarah?
Yeah, I think because we're professional programs and this is an investment you're making in your education and your future career, I'd say examine the jobs that you want to get. If you're feeling stuck in your job, do some job searches, see what's out there. Try to identify those skill sets that you're missing, or a network that you want to join, or even some knowledge that you need to gain. So just do some exploration of your career and then think about if these programs can help you get there. Also say, talk to us, we're here. Learn more about us, attend the Lunch and Learns.
All right, Megan, you have a word or two?
Totally agreed with Sarah. I'll add, I think that one of the biggest things you can do before grad school is really identifying like your why. What is your motivation? What do you care about? Why are you compelled to take the skills and the knowledge you have and apply it to this space? If you have your motivation and you understand, like, this is my gut feeling about why I'm here and what I'm doing, you can absolutely, you know, successfully make it through grad school and beyond, but it'll help you clarify your vision about how you fit in and where you want to go next. So really thinking about what's your motivation.
Jim?
Yeah, Sarah touched on this. What I would recommend is that people get on some environmental jobs listservers and find some positions that look really cool to them, that they think that they could do for the next 20 to 30 years, and then go under and look under the minimum qualifications. Is a master's degree required? Is a PhD required? If just a master's degree, what sort of skills are they looking for with regard to, you know, being able to hold such a position? And then that's kind of how you're going to want to gear your search, is what types of programs will allow you to take such coursework and acquire such skills. One last little thing here I would say is that, but don't necessarily be in a rush to go to grad school. Don't feel compelled that you have to right out from your baccalaureate degree. The window doesn't necessarily close the longer you're out from your undergraduate degree. If anything, a lot of programs, not only in this institute, on this campus, or on the nation, like to see some real world experience and maturation. Go to grad school when you know what you want to go to grad school for. Don't go to grad school just for the sake of going to grad school. I'd say don't use graduate school as a place to try to find yourself. Find yourself first, whether that's interning, whether that's doing something like Student Conservation Association, AmeriCorps. We have a lot of ex-Peace Corps volunteers in our program. So know what you're going to go to grad school for when you go to grad school. Don't do it just because it's the next expected step.
I would say only 10% of our program is recent grads. Everybody else has 1 to 25 years experience.
Okay. Well, that brings us to 1/2 past. It's a hard stop at 12:30, but this has just been an introduction. You can reach out to Sarah, Megan, and Jim, and we have these lunch and learn events which are scheduled that you can really dive in. If you're really interested in one of these programs, spend some Q&A time with each of one of these folks who are really, they just want to help you get where you're going. I'm very proud of our staff. They are really, really good. And our students, they remember the three of you more than they'll ever remember me. So reach out to these three. All right. So thanks for joining us. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to write.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Best wishes, everybody. Thank you.